Welcome to HD Rare Coins, your ultimate source for rare coins, fascinating history, and the thrill of discovery. From legendary pennies to hidden gems, we explore the world of numismatics one amazing coin at a time. In 1994, the United States Mint was still years away from introducing the state quarter program, yet production was steady and high, meeting the everyday needs of commerce. The quarter dollar, bearing John Flanagan's long-standing portrait of George Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse, rolled out of presses by the millions. The Denver Mint alone produced vast quantities, each struck with precision, each meant to be identical to the next. But in such high-volume operations, even the most carefully maintained equipment could falter for a moment. And when it did, something quietly unusual emerged from the otherwise unremarkable stream of coins. The flaw wasn't the kind that halted production or raised alarms among mint workers. It was small, intricate, and buried within the details, so subtle that even a careful glance might miss it. Yet for the few that escaped the mint and entered circulation, this imperfection would carry the seeds of an extraordinary story. It would be months before one such coin caught the attention of a collector who, like many in the early 90s, hunted through change not only for silver but for mistakes, small irregularities that transformed ordinary coins into prized possessions. He was working through a bag of circulated quarters, most worn, some still with a trace of mint luster. Then, one coin made him stop. At first, it wasn't the date or the mint mark that drew him in, it was the eagle's right wing. Something about it didn't seem right that he leaned closer, adjusting the light. The feathers seemed to ripple unnaturally, as though a faint shadow clung to them. Turning the coin over, he examined Washington's profile and found similar distortions. The Liberty inscription appeared to have a slight, almost ghostly doubling, and the 1994 date bore a split in its edges, not the smeared look of machine doubling, but sharp, clean separation lines. Under a 10x loop, the mystery deepened. The mint mark D showed signs of a secondary impression, offset just enough to create the illusion of a twin. The eagle's talons gripped the arrows and olive branch with an extra edge, as if a faint second image had been pressed over the first. This wasn't damage from circulation, the coin was telling him that something had gone awry in the striking process. That he had seen common strike errors before, off-center coins, broad strikes, weak strikes, but this one carried a crispness in its doubling that hinted at a more significant cause. He suspected a doubled die, a minting mishap where the design is impressed onto the die twice, each slightly misaligned. Such errors were far more common decades earlier, but by the 1990s, the mint's improved processes had made them rare. Finding one on a modern quarter was nearly unheard of. At first, he didn't speak much about the find. He kept it in a small protective flip, showing it only to trusted fellow collectors. Reactions varied, some were intrigued, others skeptical, believing it to be mechanical doubling. But the sharpness of the split lines convinced him otherwise. There was intent in those details, the result of a mistake in the die itself, not in the strike. Research followed. He combed through error coin catalogs and past auction listings. Very few 1994 quarter errors were documented, and none matched the exact characteristics of his coin. This gave him an unsettling thought: was his the only one? Or had a handful slipped through before the die was retired? The answer remained elusive, but the rarity seemed undeniable. The coin's journey into notoriety was slow at first. In the mid-90s, error coin collecting was a niche within a niche. Prices were modest, even for unusual pieces, unless they carried extreme visual appeal. Early offers for his coin came in the $50, $75 range, tempting but far below what he believed it was worth. He declined each one. As the years passed, interest in error coins grew. Online communities made sharing finds easier, and knowledge spread quickly. Photographs of dramatic double dies from earlier decades fueled excitement for modern examples, and slowly, collectors began looking more closely at 1990s coinage. That's when his coin began to gain attention again, when a fellow collector posted about a possible 1994 quarter doubling on a numismatic forum. He compared the description and realized it didn't match his coin. This confirmed his suspicion that his example had unique traits. By now, more advanced diagnostics were available, and he was able to capture high-resolution images that revealed the depth and clarity of the doubling. The spread on the date, the ghost lines on Liberty, the doubled edges of the eagle's feathers, all stood out as deliberate, not accidental. Then came the twist. In a conversation with a retired mint technician, he learned that in late 1993 and early 1994, Denver's die-making department had experienced an issue with one of its hubs, causing a batch of dies to be improperly aligned during the second hubbing. The problem was reportedly caught early, and the affected dies destroyed. Yet, if even one slipped past inspection, it could have struck a short run of coins before being pulled from service. The description of the error matched his coin perfectly. Suddenly, this wasn't just an interesting doubled die, it was potentially a survivor of a documented, but officially unacknowledged, mint mishap. That connection elevated its status in the error community, and so did the fact that no other confirmed examples had surfaced in nearly 3 decades. As word spread, offers climbed. What had once drawn bids under $100 now had collectors whispering about $500 or more, depending on market conditions. The owner, now well aware of its scarcity, still hesitated to part with it. He understood that rarity wasn't just about how many existed, it was also about how many people knew to look for them. And in this case, knowledge was still limited. The coin's surfaces told the story better than any written record could. The doubled elements were sharp and proud, unsoftened by heavy wear. Even the coin's luster remained, dancing under light and highlighting each anomaly. Washington's eye carried a faint twin outline, giving him an almost watchful expression. The eagle on the reverse appeared more dynamic, as if caught mid-motion. These were not effects that casual handling could create, they were born in the die, struck into the very heart of the metal. He often imagined how easily it could have been missed. Had it gone to a cashier who glanced at it only long enough to drop it in a till, or to a child's allowance jar, the error would have vanished into the anonymity of circulation. Its value would have been lost to the sound of coins clinking together in a pocket. But instead, it had found its way into the hands of someone who noticed. Someone who cared. The market for such finds has only become more competitive over time. Modern collectors, eager for the next big discovery, scour change with renewed determination. And yet, the 1994 D double die quarter remains elusive, whispered about in online threads and collector meetups. A few claim to have seen one, but photographs never quite match. Some suspect the surviving population could be in the single digits, or perhaps even just one. If that is true, then this coin holds a unique place in modern U.S. numismatics. It bridges an era, minted before the explosion of the state quarters, before the public's renewed fascination with coins, yet modern enough to challenge the belief that dramatic errors are a thing of the past. It is both a product of precision and the child of imperfection. To this day, its owner takes it out from time to time, tilting it under the lamp, letting the doubled edges catch the light just so. He doesn't think of it purely in terms of price, though he knows that should it ever go to auction, the figure could be impressive. What he sees instead is a frozen moment in 1994, a fleeting slip in an industrial process that was meant to leave no room for flaws, and yet did, and in that flaw lies the real treasure, the reminder that even in the pursuit of perfection, the smallest errors can leave the most lasting mark. The year 2008 marked the closing chapter of one of the most ambitious coin programs in United States history, the State Quarters Program. Since 1999, the U.S. Mint had been releasing 5 new quarter designs each year, each honoring a different state, in the order they joined the Union. By the time the final set rolled out, the public had grown accustomed to pulling unusual reverses from their change, and collectors, both casual and serious, were scouring their pockets and rolls from the bank in hopes of filling albums. In the midst of this nationwide hunt for the last states to be honored, the Philadelphia Mint was running at a relentless pace, producing millions upon millions of coins for circulation. Efficiency was the goal, and in such an environment, perfection was difficult to maintain. Among the final issues of the program was the 2008 Oklahoma quarter. It carried a design that captured the state's beauty, a scissor-tailed flycatcher in flight, trailing long, elegant feathers across a field of Indian blanket wildflowers. John Flanagan's familiar portrait of George Washington, modified for the series, occupied the obverse. To the casual observer, there was nothing more to it than another in the long line of state quarters. But in the hidden crevices of the minting process, something unexpected happened, something that would escape notice until the right set of eyes found it. No one can say with certainty which press produced it, or which die suffered the damage, but the evidence was unmistakable. On certain 2008 P Oklahoma quarters, doubling appeared in places it should not have been, strong, distinct, and visible without magnification. On some examples, the feathers of the scissor-tailed flycatcher appeared almost to shimmer, lines doubled and edges overlapping as though caught in motion. On the obverse, the letters in Liberty and the date carried an unnatural thickness, with shadow-like impressions beside them. This was not machine doubling, the kind caused by die bounce. This was the kind of doubling born during die creation itself, a double die error. For months, these coins slipped into change unnoticed. Bank tellers rolled them, vending machines accepted them, and millions of people spent them without a second thought. It took a collector with patience and persistence to pull one from obscurity. His name was Eric Lawson, a hobbyist who had been filling state quarter folders for years. On a rainy Thursday, he stopped by his local bank to pick up a $500 box of quarters, something he did once every few weeks. Most rolls were mundane: Delaware, Virginia, Wisconsin, but in the middle of the box, a roll marked OK caught his attention. He broke it open and began the familiar rhythm: check obverse, check reverse, slide into the keeper's pile, toss into the spender's pile. It was in that repetitive motion that he saw it, an Oklahoma quarter that looked different. At first, he thought his tired eyes were playing tricks on him, but when he tilted the coin under the desk lamp, the doubled lines on the bird's tail feathers leapt into view. He froze, turning it over. On the obverse, the 2008 seemed almost layered, like it had been shadowed in metal. His heart rate picked up. Could it be? He pulled out his 10x loop and confirmed the details. Every part of the doubling was rounded and full, not flat or shelf-like, hallmarks of a true double die. Eric didn't shout, didn't rush. Years of collecting had taught him the importance of composure. He carefully set the coin aside and examined the rest of the roll. Two more examples surfaced, each with similar doubling, though one showed it slightly weaker. The odds of finding even one had to be astronomical. Finding three from the same roll suggested they'd been struck in sequence, possibly within minutes of each other, before the die was replaced. In the following days, Eric reached out to a small circle of trusted collectors. Some were skeptical. After all, the state quarter series had been scoured by millions of eyes for years. But when they saw the high-resolution photos, skepticism gave way to quiet excitement. These were no ordinary mint anomalies. And the date, 2008 P, was significant. Not only was it part of the program's final year, but Philadelphia had produced fewer double die quarters than Denver during the entire run. This was an outlier in every sense. The first whispers of the find began to circulate in online forums. At first, the value was speculative. One collector suggested $50 per coin, another thought it might reach $200. Eric, for his part, wasn't ready to sell. He sent the strongest example to PCGS for grading, and the result came back: MS66, double die reverse. With the grade secured, the coin's profile grew overnight. Auction houses began to take interest, contacting him with offers to place it in upcoming sales. The value didn't spike immediately. At the first auction, the coin fetched $325, not earth-shattering, but significant for a modern quarter. The second example, sold months later, brought $480. By the time the numismatic press picked up the story, collectors nationwide were hunting Oklahoma quarters in rolls and jars, hoping lightning might strike twice. The frenzy pushed prices higher. Graded MS66 examples began selling for over $800, while lower grades still commanded $150 to $300. Eric watched the progression with a mixture of satisfaction and disbelief. He knew rarity and demand could be fickle companions in the coin market, but the 2008 P double die had something most modern errors lacked: aesthetic appeal. The doubling was bold, dramatic, and easy to spot, traits that drew even casual collectors. And there was another factor: despite the nationwide search, no more than a few dozen examples surfaced. The die that produced them had clearly been in use for a very short time, and the mintage window was a fraction of the total production. Then came the twist that deepened the mystery. Months into the coin's rise in fame, Eric acquired another Oklahoma quarter from a small-town coin show. At first glance, it looked like his original find, but under magnification, it revealed something startling. The doubling was present, but so was a faint die crack running from the bird's wingtip to the rim, intersecting the doubled lines. No other known example had this feature. Die cracks are common enough in circulation strikes, but combined with a doubled die, they become far rarer. More intriguing was what this suggested: the die may have suffered progressive damage during its short life, with the earliest strikes showing clean doubling and later strikes revealing the crack. That meant there could be at least two identifiable stages of the error: early die state and late die state, each with its own scarcity and potential value. Collectors debated endlessly which would prove more desirable, the pristine doubling of the early state, or the dramatic imperfection of the late state. Both camps had their arguments, and prices for each began to diverge. The late-state crack die examples, once overlooked, started commanding even higher premiums in auctions, with one selling for over $1,200 in MS65.BY 2015. The market had solidified the coin's place in modern era lore. It wasn't just a curiosity, it had become a benchmark for the rarity possible in the mass-produced State Quarter series. Eric still owned his first find, the MS66 that started it all, kept in a secure holder and rarely handled. On occasion, he would take it out and tilt it under the light, watching the doubled feathers glint as they had the day he first noticed them. It was a reminder that even in an era of automated perfection, human error, and the value it can create, still had a place. The 2008 P Oklahoma double die remains a phantom to most collectors, a coin they've heard of but never seen in person. Its story is one of chance, patience, and an unyielding attention to detail. Somewhere in its mirrored shadows and layered lines lies the quiet proof that history doesn't always announce itself. It sometimes slips silently into a bankroll, waiting for the right set of eyes to bring it to life.